First-person shooters first became popular with games like Doom, Halo, Quake, and Unreal. Since then, the genre has grown to be one of the biggest in the entire gaming industry, with franchises like Battlefield and Call of Duty leading the charge, as well as some newcomers like Overwatch and Rainbow Six Siege. However, some games just tried way too hard to break into a market that is for all intensive purposes oversaturated and ended up flopping hard. What's up everyone, my name is Bernsey, and today we're going to be checking out 10 first-person shooter games that were overhyped and flopped hard. Now just a little disclaimer, just because a game is on this list does not mean it was bad. In fact, some of the games in this video are really good, but these are the games that for whatever reason just couldn't break through financially, regardless of how good or bad they may have been. Let's get started. We are running a $200 Amazon gift card giveaway the entire month. All you have to do to enter is like this video, be subscribed, turn on your notifications, and comment why you want to win with your Twitter handle attached. I will announce the winner at the end of the month on Twitter. Number 10, Duke Nukem Forever. Famously, it was in development for almost 15 years. Duke Nukem Forever wasn't exactly hyped, but people were still pretty excited. With a development that long and troubled, I don't think many people were expecting it to be good, but we were still pretty excited to get our hands on it and see for ourselves. Well, you probably know what happened after that. The game was destroyed by critics and gamers alike for its dated visuals, unfunny jokes, terrible gameplay, tasteless story, and the complete destruction of the Duke Nukem license. Hopefully in the future we get a new Duke Nukem game that redeems his name, but I'm really starting to doubt that will ever happen. Number 9, 007 Legends. One of the greatest and most influential FPS games of all time is GoldenEye 007 for the Nintendo 64. Ever since then, James Bond games have been pretty hit or miss. 007 Legends was looking to change that hit or miss reputation and create an awesome game that would have campaign missions across all of the Bond movies and a huge multiplayer that would bring back the good old days of GoldenEye. Unfortunately, what we got was the complete opposite. 007 Legends was a simple Call of Duty clone that was buggy and unfun, and the campaign missions weren't even that good due to the lackluster level design and the decision to replace all of the iconic Bond actors with Daniel Craig. Don't get me wrong, Daniel is a great Bond, but why would you replace the old Bonds? Who approved that idea? That's criminal. And by the way, the best Bond is Pierce Brosnan. Number 8, Evolve. Released in early 2015, Evolve was meant to be one of the first killer FPS games for the new generation of consoles. The concept was actually interesting, as a group of players took control of hunters, while one player controlled a monster. What followed was a large chase in which the hunters tried to take down the monster before it reached its full size, while the monster tried to eliminate the hunters or just survive long enough to run out the clock. Unfortunately, what I just described was really the only thing the game had to offer, and yet it was shipping for a full $60. Gamers weren't happy with this insane price point, especially considering how subpar the game actually was. There was barely anything to do, it was super overpriced, and the developers were pumping out hundreds of dollars worth of cosmetic DLC as if their game was League of Legends. Evolve died extremely quickly, forcing it to move to a free-to-play model, which is essentially a kiss of death in the gaming industry. Number 7, HAZE. Intended to be the Halo killer, and the reason for FPS fans to make the switch from Xbox 360 to the PlayStation 3. But all it ended up doing was embarrassing the developers and Sony's console. HAZE launched on May 20th, 2008 to scathing reviews criticizing its awful story, lackluster gameplay, bad visuals, and a general lack of anything fun. It's unknown what caused this game to be so bad, as it was developed by Free Radical Design, the same team behind the excellent Time Splitters and Crysis franchises. I guess we'll never know what really happened to HAZE, but it does seem whenever a company tries to come at FPS giants like Call of Duty and Halo, they fail miserably. Number 6, Battlefield Hardline. When Battlefield Hardline came out, fans were excited for a new take on the Battlefield formula, ditching the large-scale warfare for a cops and robbers theme. However, Battlefield Hardline was nothing like what we were expecting, and that's not really a good thing. While the idea was interesting, the execution was just not that good. The campaign was incredibly generic and uninteresting, and the multiplayer was just a dumbed-down version of Battlefield 4's multiplayer, and that really had nothing to do with the cops and robbers theme. The game is fun for a little bit, but it doesn't hold a candle to any of the other Battlefield games, which led to the player base dying extremely quickly and many calling it a quick cash grab, and I really don't disagree with that at all. I mean, the game came with maybe half of what was in Battlefield 4, but EA was charging the same price. That's pretty shady. To me, Battlefield Hardline seemed what maybe a $20 DLC would look like, and maybe it would be more successful if it was released in that fashion. EA essentially took a new game type for Battlefield and turned it into a fully priced $60 video game. Number 5. Aliens Colonial Marines. This game is just heartbreaking. Aliens Colonial Marines was advertised and promoted to be an awesome experience, putting you in the shoes of one of the soldiers from the Aliens universe and having you face off against hordes of the dreaded xenomorphs, mixing FPS action and survival horror together in one. However, what we got was a terrible mess of a game that wasn't actually the one that was shown off at promotional events. Aliens Colonial Marines is ugly, unfun, not scary, and ended up getting Sega and Gearbox in a lot of trouble for false advertising. It's still a mystery as to what actually happened to the original version of Aliens Colonial Marines, but it's no mystery that the finished product was atrocious. Number 4. Titanfall. Released in 2013, the first Titanfall game was pretty hyped due to it being developed by Respawn Entertainment, a studio comprised of the X-Infinity Ward members who made Call of Duty 4 and Modern Warfare 2. Having a development team that is responsible for two of the best Call of Duties of all time in Modern Warfare and Modern Warfare 2, and the hype is going to be through the roof. Things were looking up for this new sci-fi shooter, but when the game launched, that hype died pretty quickly. While the gameplay was solid and the map design was great, Titanfall launched with a ton of setbacks. The technical issues, lack of content, awful campaign, and no anti-cheat on PC really hurt the game's reputation, and the player base quickly died out. Even after the issues were fixed and the price was dropped dramatically, the game was pretty much dead across Xbox One, Xbox 360, and the PC. Which is a shame because the core gameplay of Titanfall is a ton of fun. Respawn kept moving forward though, hoping to correct their mistakes in Titanfall 2. Spoiler alert, they did not. Which brings us to number 3, Titanfall 2. Unfortunately, Titanfall 2 was yet another financial failure. Unlike the first game, Titanfall 2 launched in near perfect condition, boasting an excellent campaign, a great multiplayer with tons of diversity in ways to play, a deep customization system, and pretty much everything you could want from an online multiplayer experience. Unfortunately, Titanfall 2 was a financial flop, despite the critical praise and the fixing of just about every issue the first game had. Some attribute this failure to the reception of the first game, while others attribute it to the sequel launching right next to Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and Modern Warfare Remastered. Whatever the reason may be, it's a shame that Titanfall 2 didn't hit its goals because really, it's a great game. I know you need those holiday sales, I know you're probably under pressure to have a Q4 release, but we need to learn our lesson, developers trying to compete with Call of Duty. It's very difficult to compete with those AAA titles that have been around forever. They're always going to get the higher holiday sales. So here's a suggestion. Perhaps push your release to the spring. Players are starting to get bored with Call of Duty and other AAA titles from the holiday season and are looking for something fresh. If your game is that amazing, people will buy it. But they're distracted during the Christmas time with other games. So push it to the spring. Number 2, Battleborn. You guys probably know about this one if you're a fan of Overwatch. Developed by Gearbox, the team behind the Borderlands series, Battleborn was a team-based hero FPS with a gameplay that was very similar to Overwatch. Unfortunately, this similarity ultimately ended up being the death of this game. When Battleborn launched, it was met with a very meh response. The gameplay was okay, the design was decent, but the grind for gear and loot was insanely demanding, which turned many players away from it. These are all things that could have been fixed pretty easily, but then Overwatch came out. Overwatch was basically Battleborn but 10 times better, destroying what little player base Battleborn had, and dooming it from ever making a real recovery. Battleborn did so much wrong while Overwatch did everything right. And speaking of Overwatch type games that failed, the number 1 spot for the top 10 games that were overhyped and flopped belongs to Lawbreakers. This game launched in the summer of 2016, which is a terrible time to launch a game, and featured team-based hero FPS combat, which naturally drew many comparisons to Overwatch. Lawbreakers definitely tried to distance itself from Overwatch in many ways, as it was more mature and violent than the other game and also featured much faster gameplay and had a heavy emphasis on physics and verticality. However, due to a lack of content and originality, as well as the embarrassingly unstable launch on PS4, Lawbreakers failed to break through into the mainstream and currently has an all-time player peak of under 7,500 players. And, as of this recording, Lawbreakers has only broken 200 current players once in the last month. I do respect the developers though, as they have stated many times that they acknowledge the game's failures and are dedicated to supporting it still and bringing new players in. But with such a bad reputation, and with so many better games on the market, it's hard to see Lawbreakers making a comeback anytime soon. That concludes our list for the top 10 overhyped FPS games that flopped. My name is Bernsey, thanks for stopping by, and I hope you learned something today. If you'd like to see more videos, there's a playlist down below for your viewing pleasure, and if you'd like to submit your own ideas for future videos, click the link below. My name once again is Bernsey, thanks for stopping by, have yourself a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you next time.